The amount of stories I have of wonderful couples and the moments they've had with their families are just priceless. I absolutely love wedding photography. It's the only genre of photography where you get to combine the art of photography with the emotions of a wedding day. Mind you, this is two couples coming together, bringing their families together for a large celebration, and there's nothing like it. My name is John from John Branch Ford Photography, and I'm a FUJIFILM wedding photographer and have been doing weddings for over 10 years now. So when I started with wedding photography, I was a brand new photographer and I was just getting off of learning photography. I actually started with other genres of photography first that would be safer than a wedding. Because as you all know, a wedding is a once in a lifetime thing, and if you miss something, it's gone forever. So I started out doing engagement sessions, portrait sessions, and also street photography. In my personal opinion, street photography is probably the best genre to give you a feel for wedding photography because the two things that are the same in them is you're waiting for a moment, and if you miss the moment, it's gone. If you're doing street photography, you can't walk up to someone on the street and be like, hey, excuse me, can you walk back that way? If you saw the moment, it was there. If you missed it, it's gone. So after I practiced for about a year doing different genres of photography, I felt comfortable enough to do a wedding. I will tell you all personally, you will never feel the most comfortable until you start doing it, so don't be afraid to just jump into your weddings. My first wedding was a smaller wedding where I actually wasn't covering the whole day, just the ceremony and a little bit of reception in Central Park. This way, the stakes weren't very high, I was able to take the photos I needed, and the photos actually turned out extremely well. From there, I started shooting weddings by myself for about 2 to 3 years. I would not suggest this to anybody. You should start as a second photographer or do small backyard weddings. But after about 2 to 3 years, I got a mentor. He helped me learn some more of wedding photography, and that's how I ended up where I am today. So I think my favorite part about wedding photography is actually being so immersed in the moment. I feel like I'm always on, paying attention to everything that's happening across the room. And something I absolutely love is knowing when something's about to happen and capturing it, knowing that it was happening. And there's a couple things you have to focus on when it comes to this, right? You have to have your settings already set up. This is why I was saying street photography, again, is a great way to practice that. But you have to have an idea of who the major players are in your wedding and kind of how a wedding day happens. So for instance, let's say you're with a bride, she's getting her makeup done, everyone's just kind of hanging out, not much is happening. And then grandma enters the room because she just arrived. Obviously at this point, you're already thinking, well, there's going to be a meet and greet. Grandma's probably going to come over to the bride and see her. There might be emotions. So now I'm already in this state of knowing it's going to happen, thinking about what focal length I'll need to get there, and then getting to that shot. And I absolutely love that because you're doing it all day. If you're a photojournalistic wedding photographer, you're pretty much waiting for these moments, knowing they're gonna happen. So you're listening, you're looking, and you're just feeling what's happening all day. Hands down, that's what I love the most about wedding photography. Now, while many photographers will tell you that gear is not important, which I honestly say that a lot myself, it is important depending on what it is you're trying to capture. Now, there's multiple ways that you can approach your wedding days, and there's multiple ways that you can set your gear up, and how you like to work really sets in how this gear is gonna affect you. For instance, I like shooting with 2 camera bodies and prime lenses only. Now, with this, that means I have to be immersed in my moments, and I have to step into them. I can't just zoom. So if I'm using a 35mm lens, I have to step into the frame to get that photo. I've noticed that this makes a difference in your photos as well as to how they look. If you have a 35mm and you're standing close to your subject, you can feel that closeness in the photo. Whereas if I'm shooting with a 135, it's gonna look very different. Even though the shot may be close, you don't feel as close to the moment. So gear makes a huge difference in how you approach your photos. Another way how it can affect your wedding days as well is how your guests react to your cameras. Larger cameras will normally make guests stop and look and pose for the photo, or just get self-conscious about a photo being taken. Whereas if you have smaller cameras, you're able to sneak in and take photos without anyone noticing. And that's actually one thing I love about Fujifilm cameras. So when it comes to Fujifilm cameras, one of the biggest reasons why I chose them is their size and weight. First off, as a wedding photographer, I'm wearing my cameras on my back pretty much for 8 to 12 hours. So the larger the camera, the more it's gonna start hurting my back. With Fujifilm X series, you have very small cameras that are nice and lightweight, but extremely capable. Because of this too, the lenses are also smaller, and guests just don't notice them as much. I personally love using GFX 100S2 for its resolution and its speed. Being larger than full frame, you're getting a 102 megapixels, and this gives you so many options. The first option is croppability. With 102 megapixels, you can crop your photos almost more than 50% and still get the same resolution that you would in a full frame camera. For wedding photography, this is huge because you can just crop into that frame if you need be. Also, with that much resolution, the photos look absolutely amazing in print, and you can print larger prints. Something else to think about when you're picking your gear as well is if you want to be a part of those moments or not physically. I know some photographers are a little bit more introverted, so you don't necessarily have to step into your moments. You can use a zoom lens and get the same effect. With a zoom lens, you're able to move around quicker on a wedding day without having to change your lenses. With me shooting with prime lenses, there comes parts of the day where I do have to switch out my lenses, and I lose a little bit of time doing that. Like I was saying earlier as well, if a moment is happening and I'm in the middle of changing my lens, that moment is gone. I can't get it. I'm not even gonna try to get it. I literally just can't. Whereas with a zoom lens, if I'm at 55 millimeter and they need to go all the way back to 16, I can just quickly, with a swipe of the wrist, switch my focal length and get what I need. Zoom has the versatility of switching your focal lengths very quickly. Primes usually have faster apertures, meaning you can let more light in. It's really up to you and what you would like your approach to be to wedding photography. One of my favorite parts of a wedding day is the getting ready section. This is early in the morning when everyone's still getting dressed and they're just getting ready for the wedding day to start. Now, the reason why I like this part of the wedding day is because it's a combination of me as the photographer getting to choose what I want to do, as well as getting these first moments out of my couples at the beginning of the day. With the getting ready section of a wedding day, generally you're going to be hanging out with your bride and groom as they get ready. I personally like to do the photos for both of them. Some people will send their second photographer to one or the other. Now, while this is happening, I'm choosing the scenes that I want to take for my photos, and this is where I can get so much more artsy with the photos than I would be able to with, say, the ceremony. At a ceremony, I have no control over anything. I can't tell anyone to stand anywhere. I can't move objects in the room. It's happening already. And from your ceremony on through the rest of the wedding day, that's pretty much what it's going to be. You're out of control. You're just a part of it. But with the getting ready section, you're in so much more control. If you get into the hotel room and the light's not good, you can set up lights. If there's mess in the back of the shot, you can tell people to move it out of the way and get a more beautiful shot. So this combines the art side and also the feeling side that's happening at the start of a wedding day, which is why it's the section I love the most.
Risking our whole lives for the photo.
In this series, we're gonna cover everything wedding photography. From choosing your gear, the difference between prime and zoom lenses, taking your actual photos, importing and editing your photos, as well as the back end of the business and how we run everything. So I'll catch y'all on the next episode where we'll talk about gear and research.